Fireside Tales. Hello, I'm Merlin, Mililli. Welcome to my fireside, where I tell weird tales within tales. And I drink coffee from my skull mug, because I'm a deadhead. A deadhead is someone, in case you don't know, who really likes the Grateful Dead. The Grateful Dead are a psychedelic rock band from San Francisco. One of their founding members just recently passed. I've been very sad, rather bummed about Bob Weir dying. But thank you for all the years you gave us. It's sad. It's so final. But we won't get into that today. Because we talk here about reincarnation, and rather not final. Reincarnation is the belief that people come back, not back to life like a zombie, but back, like born again. You get to try again. I have been meditating for a long time, since I was like 16, and I've gotten quite good. I like to, before meditating, smudge and ground. I also talk about fire safety and fires being one of my threads throughout my different lives. I talk about a meditative library every week here at Fireside Tales. It's called the Akashic Records, or the Akasha. It's a meditative place, so it's metaphysical, and it is a library that holds a book for every soul's lives. This is sage, and this is what I mean by smudging. I burn dried sage. I feel I've been doing this for a really long time, and I do it before I meditate, before I do any kind of ritual or astral travel, anything like that. It's a good idea to smudge and ground. I also like smudging like a new home, my animals. You just kind of smoke out your aura. And fire safety is important. I have a kettle full of water up on top of the fire, and I have a chalice of water here for the smudge stick, and I have a sprayer right around the corner. When I have a fire outside, I try to make sure that it's in a pit. It's in a dug pit that doesn't have anything growing out of it, and is lined with stones. And then you want to make sure that there's no overhanging branches, and you want to make sure that you have a shovel and some dirt, and you want to have some water, at least a bucket of water, if not, a direct water source nearby. And anywho, all of these things are threads that seem to link each of my lives in my book and the Akashic Records together. The smudging, the grounding. I'm going to show you how to ground in just a moment. The fire safety and the fires. Grounding is when you blow all of the negativity out. It's a breathing exercise. Bear, I don't really want to blow all my negativity at you. He's an old guy. My bear. I don't know if you guys can see him, but here he is. But anywho, yeah. So I'm gonna ground, where you blow all of your negativity out. And you breathe in positivity. You think an uber positive thought. And you blow out positive. And you do that until you blow out positive. I've gotten quite good at it. If you got something going on that's negative around you, it can be difficult. And it might take a few tries. Don't beat yourself up. That's not usually the grounder's fault. It's usually something else outside the area of grounding that's causing it to be tedious in getting to a positive breath out. So, meditation is also one of my threads, and then being a psychic medium is also one of my threads. And in that, I communicate with the spirit realm quite frequently. And in the spirit realm, all the spirits seem to be in agreement that if you are murdered, you get to come back and try again. And basically, that's the basis for reincarnation. And I apparently have been murdered a lot. Because my book is really big and old and dusty. And it's strange. For some reason, it has like a water line where half of it is light and dry and sandy, and my lives in that light, dry, sandy part of the book are much longer than my lives in the other half of the book, which is dark and wet and muddy, and my lives are shorter for some reason. I think the watermark marks the Great Flood. That's my theory. So, every week here I bring up the Grateful Dead because every week while I'm making the show, I tell the story of the Grateful Dead. So, here we go. Watch out here. Once, long, long ago, there was a traveler. It was so long ago that she traveled by foot. One day, while traveling along, she came upon a village. There was a crowd of people. She got closer. And she realized that the people were arguing. She got closer still and found that they were arguing over a dead body. Quite literally. There was a dead body laying right there, and they were arguing over it. And over it, because they were arguing over who was going to pay the dead man's debts and who was going to bury the dead man and who was going to pay for the burial. So the traveler just thought that that was atrocious and disrespectful to the dead person. So she said, "Stop. I will pay the dead man's debts. I will pay for a proper burial." And so she did. She paid the dead man's debts. She paid for a proper burial. And she prayed over the dead man's body. And she traveled on. Then one day, decades later, the traveler happens upon a life or death situation wherein a stranger just comes out of nowhere and saves her life. And she says, "Thank you. Where did you come from? Who are you? Why did you just save my life?" And the stranger says, "I am the Grateful Dead." The story of the Grateful Dead is from the Tibetan Book of the Dead. And it's where the Grateful Dead, the band, got their name from the story. And it's about reincarnation. Some people think it's about undead, and it's not. It's about reincarnation. That person, the dead man, was reincarnated. It was decades later when he saved the traveler's life. He was reincarnated. He was the Grateful Dead. He was grateful for the traveler having paid his debts and prayed over his body. I think there's something to the praying over the body, too. There's definitely something to that. But that's a whole nother animal that we won't get into today. Today, well, this whole season, we're going to the Middle East in ancient times, before Christ, BC. And so this is, we've been in last season, season 4, I discussed a life in ancient Egypt. And that was in the light, dry, sandy part of my book. Now, this life we're going to discuss this season, I think, was right around the watermark. Like, it happened right at or around the life of this person that was called Darius, and he can be traced, and there's documentaries about him, and there were things carved into stone. Now, I talk about threads from one life to the next, and there's a lot of things linking this life that I'm going to discuss in season 5 of Darius the First, Darius the Great, or as he was called, I want to get this right. We'll come back to that. Anywho, I think it was like Daria, something in his own language. Darius is the Greek translation. For some reason, they changed everything to Greek when the Greek people took over a lot of this area, or tried to take over this area. So, anywho, we're looking at the culture of Darius's time, which is, he was born in 550 BC. And he went on to become king in 522 BC, the King of Kings, they say. But he didn't write that much. He just said Darius the King. He didn't say Darius the Great. He didn't even say Darius I, because why would you if you're the first? He said Darius the King, which he was. And last season we discussed how I had been Hatshepsut, who was an ancient Egyptian pharaoh, one of the only female pharaohs. And so being king was kind of a step down from what she was used to in her last life, in his last life. So where some of the things that he had written about himself, you could see similarities between him and what I can see similarities between what he did and what Hatshepsut did, and what they each thought were expected of them, and what they were each taught was expected of them. So there's these threads, and they're very distinct from one life to the next. I can tell that I was already used to being pharaoh because I had been pharaoh. So this is 550 BC when Darius is born. And when you're talking BC, the numbers kind of go backwards. So then in 522 he became king, and he died in 486 supposedly BC, which is for the time a rather long life. For my book, a rather short life. Though there's a king's list carved into stone in multiple languages, and I believe he's listed there, Darius, as having like 1,000-year life, and they've decided, well, that can't be possible. But according to my book, it can be possible, and I think it was, and we'll get into that in another episode. Today, I'm talking about the culture. So, the culture in Darius's time was quite changed by his reign, which was rather long because it lasted from 522 to 486. So that's date, or how many years? I don't know. It's like he died in his 70s. For that time period, that's old. But for my book, like I said, it's not. Like, I've had really long lives in the light, dry, sandy part of my book, like thousands of years long. And I don't think Darius was an exception to that. I think he did live a much longer life, and I'll explain that in another episode this season. So he made the Royal Road, which was 1,500 miles from Iran to Turkey, from what's now Iran to what's now Turkey. And all people could use the road. It wasn't just merchants or just for his messages, which he also established the first mail system along the Royal Road. He also would fix up all the dilapidated buildings, and he built new buildings along the road and made sure to have plenty of inns and horse stables and watering holes and places where people could thrive. And they did, all along the road. There was trading, there were markets, it was inhabited, and so it was safe because it was inhabited. And you know, even at night was still lit up. People were still out and about and doing things. So people could travel through there for the first time, really, that anybody knows of. The Silk Road was, I think it was a thing by then, but it wasn't safe. And Darius put guard points and always had the messengers going, so the messengers could take a message to somebody if they saw somebody in trouble, or it was a very efficient system. And he established the Suez Canal. He built palaces at Susa and Persepolis. And he always gave credit to the people who built the buildings. And he established the Suez Canal, which extended Persia passed through from the Red Sea to the Mediterranean Sea. He seized Egypt, which is interesting because Hatshepsut was pharaoh of Upper and Lower Egypt, and I don't know, Darius just figured it was his, I guess, from, I think maybe from his last life, which is interesting. But so ships went from Egypt through the canal to Persia. I'm sorry, I have to take a moment here. Really? I'm making my show. It's really loud. It is. You can't hear it when you're recording. I'm sorry, I have very disrespectful children. Well, I specifically asked to be quiet while I was making this. Oh, so anywho, so ships went from Egypt through the canal to Persia. They spoke and wrote for administrative purposes Elamite, Aramaic, Akkadian, and their script was Old Persian script, and that was for monuments and official documents. He acquired cities like Susa and Memphis and Sardis and Babylon, and he credited all of the artisans, even the earth and where everything came from. An inscription put on the palace at Susa reads, "The palace, which I built in Susa, its materials were brought from far away. Downwards the earth was dug until I reached the rock in the earth. Then it had been dug and the rubble packed on one side. Its depth was 40 cubits. On the other side, its depth was 20 cubits. On this rubble the palace was set, and the earth was dug downwards, and the rubble packed, and the bricks molded, and the Babylonian people did it. The cedar wood was brought from a mountain called Lebanon. The Assyrian people brought it as far as Babylon. The Carians and the Ionians brought it as far as Susa. The yucca wood was brought from Gandhara and Carmia. The gold, which was worked, was brought from Lydia and Bactria. The lapis lazuli and the carnelian, which was worked here, was brought from Sardiana. The turquoise, which was worked here, was brought from Chorasmia. The silver and ebony were brought from Egypt. The decoration with which the walls were ornamented was brought from Nubia, India, and Amcosia. The stone columns which were worked here were brought from a village called Abaradu in Elam. The masons who crafted the stone were Ionian and Sardians. The goldsmiths who worked the gold were Medes and Egyptians. The men who worked the wood were Sardians and Egyptians. The men who crafted the bricks were the Babylonians. The men who decorated the wall were Medes and Egyptians. At Susa, much that was excellent was commanded to be done. Much that was excellent was done. Today I wanted to cover the culture of Darius. I never did find where it says his regular name. I swore I wrote it down. I guess I didn't. Okay. So he also worshipped Ahura Mazda, which is the Zoroastrian god. She's a nature god in that it's a god of fire. So, to close up, I'm going to sing you guys the only song I know about reincarnation. And that's Deja Vu by David Crosby. So, here we go. If I had ever been here before, I would probably know just what to do. Don't you? If I had ever been here before and another time around the wheel, I would probably know just how to deal with all of you. And I feel like I've been here before. Feel like I've been here before, and you know it makes me wonder what's going on under Don't you wonder what's going on down under you? La la la, la la la, la 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 la, la 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 la, la. We have all been here before. 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 Those that have been murdered, for sure. Thanks for watching. Join me next week where I'll continue talking about Darius. A Mililli Studios production.